we've got this situation with Lane Kiffin moving on. He, of course, has been the offensive coordinator now for, 3 seasons under 3 different quarterbacks and done an effective job, although there have been issues with he and the head coach on the sideline. But I don't think anyone would discount what he's brought to this offense in regards to his ingenuity. Now it gets passed on to Steve Sarkisian. So do you have any concerns about what could be lost in the transition?
I don't think so. I think, Sark's been around the program now for a little bit, been in meetings, gotten familiar with this offense. And to be honest, Mark, it can't be a whole lot worse than it was offensively against Washington. And really, you go back to the Florida game, wasn't a whole lot better. Sure, they put up 50 points in that game, but look at the offensive numbers and the output wasn't really there. So, I don't know what the complete explanation for Saturday's performance was on the offensive side of the football. Maybe it was just being conservative, knowing your defense doesn't want to give up any or won't give up many points, and you don't want to risk any mistakes and give Washington good field position. But whatever it was, it's got to be better than that against Clemson. And I think Sark does give him a good chance to do that. And I don't think the transition will be it'll be pretty seamless, I think, for the most part. I mean, I think these guys are pretty comfortable with him, are comfortable enough. It is still it's still a unique situation to be in, no question.
They're able to play the type game from an approach standpoint on offense that they did against Washington this coming Monday night. Nick Saban would be extremely happy, just turn around and hand it off to Bo Scarborough.
Sure.
That's most likely not going to happen. So Jalen Hurts is going to have to shoulder more of the load. It's not necessarily that he played a poor game against Washington. He just didn't have to do much. He only threw it 14 times. So your expectations for Jalen Hurts coming up Monday?
I think he'll get a few more chances to throw the ball downfield a little bit. I don't think he's – I will say, there's been some people on both sides of this. Has he been handcuffed a little bit, Hurts, in terms of, look, we don't need to throw the ball. We don't need to do a whole lot that's too crazy. Make your read. If you don't have it, go ahead and run the ball or go down. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. I think he'll have and they're going to have to. They're going to have to give him the ball more. They're going to have to trust him more in this offense at this point. And he's 14, this will be his 15th game into his career. So he's got experience. But you would expect, and I don't think we'll see the same shootout we saw last year. And granted, most of those points came in the second half last year. But I think you're going to need more out of Jalen Hurts for sure. And I expect him to produce that. I mean, look, you can't judge any one team by a game, right? I mean, we tend to overreact on a lot of stuff, whether it be Ohio State, they got blown out by Clemson. Oh, they're not that good of a team, or Clemson's really good because of that semifinal. It's the same way with Jalen Hurts. I mean, he's had a bad game or two, but for the most part of the season, he's been consistent. He's been solid.
Hey, Ben, we get a look at the rushing statistics right there, and just to look at the numbers for the entire season, Damian Harris obviously ran for over 1,000 yards, but this semifinal game was all Bo Scarborough. He looks like Derrick Henry to me, where you look at top-notch running backs across the country, whether it's a Mike Weber and Wayne Gallman in the other semifinal game with Ohio State, and Clemson, or Myles Gaskin on the other side of the field with Washington, a very accomplished back. But these last two running backs that have been featured in the Alabama offense, talking Scarborough and Derrick Henry, they just appear to be they're just monsters.
Yeah, and I know we tend to downplay the previous guy and talk about the next big thing. But Bo Scarborough is that next big thing, and he came from Tuscaloosa, so people in the area familiar with him and have watched him in high school coming up. He's got a different gear. I mean, Derrick Henry was a great running back. Obviously, he won the Heisman. I think Bo's got maybe a little more explosiveness than he does, but Bo's battled injuries. I mean, that's been a big thing for him, even going back to high school, as he's gotten banged up a little bit, and he's had to battle through that. And Saban's complimented his work ethic. He could have gotten down this year when he was the guy at the beginning of the season that everybody talked about as the Heisman front runner on this Alabama team, not in the nation, but for this team. And then he didn't come out and play a whole lot. Damian Harris got the start, played really well against USC. Then Joshua Jacobs emerged as a true freshman and carried the ball a good amount in the middle of the season. And now it looks like Bo Scarborough is kind of the hot hand at the moment. So it's not a surprise, but yeah, he's a different animal, Mark. When he gets rolling, he's almost impossible to tackle.
Yeah, last year's championship game obviously became a duel between Deshaun Watson and a number of playmakers on the Alabama side. It was almost a 1-on-5 deal. Kenyon Drake obviously was proved to make the game-changing play in the kick game. But Calvin Ridley's a guy that doesn't have the glossy stats this year because of the quarterback position and because of the dominance of the defense playing those kind of games. But he's a guy that I really want to see step up. And not that it's going to be in his control, but I would love to see the game kind of play into his hands because he was a guy that really showed us a lot in a number of games last year, made huge catches down the stretch of certain games against the likes of Tennessee and others when they needed a big play. And really, he's kind of been missing in action this year. Again, nothing to do with him, just the offensive approach.
Yeah, and normally 66 receptions at Alabama would land you, in the record books, but not over the past 10 years under Nick Saban. Things have changed quite a bit, but it's been a quiet 66 for him. A lot of ththose have been quick passes for him and given him opportunity to run the ball, and some of them have been jet sweeps that he's taken. So, maybe he's got more like 45 to 50 true receptions. But he's a deep threat. I mean, is Ardarius Stewart's a big play receiver on the outside? But I still think Calvin Ridley is the best receiver on this team, and it seems like he's been open a little bit. He's been missed maybe by Hurts, not seeing him or not having the time to get to him. But if there's going to be a big play down the field, I think Ridley's going to be that guy. O.J. Howard, look, he started to emerge a little bit more against Washington, made some catches, and he loves this big stage. We saw it last year, and I think he can be a threat. But truly, the guy that I think can be the playmaker and help Hurts out the most is Ridley. Whether or not that'll happen next Monday, I don't know. But he's a guy that you got to rely on and give him a chance.